What's going on, villain?
What's up, buddy?
Oh, the usual. Another Monday night.
Yeah. I'm just doing this workaround for the Facebook Live thing, so I just went on while we wait for people to kind of.
I mean, is there a way for us to tell the total from the last week's show?
Well, we had 80. There was 84 views on YouTube, which is for
that's a YouTube, lot for YouTube. Yeah,
for our show. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, right.
You know, because it's a small show, and a lot of people don't want to get involved with YouTube. So,
right.
It's the funny thing, and I say this, you know, our generation, we rag on these kids for always being on their phones and always, talking on them and looking at them and watching TV on them and all that. We rag on them, but if I post a YouTube link, they're like, our generation's like, I don't want to do that.
Right? Yeah, I know.
I can't click the button and go
it's
to YouTube.
So easy.
I don't understand. Yeah, it's so easy, but they're like, I don't understand it.
Well, but there's also people in our generation, and I'm one of them. I don't know if you are one of them, but you go down the YouTube hole, you just keep clicking on the videos to see, you know what I mean? You just keep going to the next one.
Yeah, the rabbit hole.
The rabbit hole, yeah.
The YouTube rabbit hole, yeah.
No bueno.
I've done that on Amazon Music. You click on one, and I definitely have discovered some good some music I never knew existed, new and old, going down those music rabbit holes. But the videos, I'll tell you what's worse than that is those reels.
Oh my Facebook. God, please. They're so stupid.
But people will they know exactly how to it's all TikTok. It's just a knockoff of TikTok. And they know exactly how to execute them the right amount of time because our attention span is short.
Oh yeah,
that's why Facebook is a scrolling world.
And when the content is always right for me, it's always someone that's gonna pop into a bikini or something. I mean, I'm that predictable. Oh shoot, are we live?
yeah, we're live.
I knew that.
I just posted a couple of links, one on the Facebook page. And on my Facebook page and in the Facebook group. And while we wait for a couple of people, some little more people to come in, we are not going to get hit by the hurricane here in Boca on the East Coast, but we are definitely going to be getting hit with a lot of storm bands, the bands that shoot off of them. Yeah, it's going to be windy and wet. Yeah.
My brother's worried too.
What's that?
Troy's a little worried because he's on the West Coast and they're supposed to get it.
Where is he on the West Coast?
He's up in Nokomis near Fort Myers.
It's going to go, they're going to get, it's going to skirt in touch right on the edge. I put something on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's ugly.
You can't really see it there, but.
No, it's a little blurry, but I
put it on my page. It's a live action kind of shot of where it's going, sped up. And Fort Myers they're going to get something. They're going to get something. Hope he's, I always said, as far as hurricanes go, I just came to the realization that I've been down here 24 years. And in 24 years and X amount of hurricanes, which we haven't had any, fortunately, in like the last 7 or 8 years, we haven't had anything serious.
Yep.
I've never had to, let's see.
Jared.
Where's Todd? Red alert on the, yeah, that gets a lot of attention. I've never had to, use the water that I bought for a hurricane, other than for afterwards when it's just sitting there. My water never went bad. You know.
Well, and it's funny. My brother doesn't necessarily do the run to the supermarket thing so much. You know, he might pick up a little bit of water, whatever, but he worries about the potential damage from like trees and stuff. Like he's got a bunch of, I don't know what those big trees are that grow. They're not obviously not maples, but you know, whatever grows in Florida, those big.
Yeah, you have. Oh, there's oak trees. There's what else is there? Ficus trees. Ficus trees, very shallow rooted. You have black olive trees that grow.
He's got a lot of ficus around his house too. They look really nice too.
Yeah, but again, shallow roots.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember at the end, the old high school. So you had Miller's Field, but at the other end, right? So where they played baseball on the baseball field, right?
Yep.
So you had the football field. If you're looking at it from like Dougie Callie's house, say you're looking at the high school, the football field is to the left, and at the end there was just these houses on the other side, right? There was one house that had this gigantic weeping willow. I mean, this thing was big, and we had one of those storms. It might even have been Hurricane Gloria.
Gloria or Bob.
And that thing came down, man.
I think I remember that now.
Big weeping willow, man.
Yeah, those are great trees too.
Yeah, they are. So, all right, let's get this show started.
Let's get it started.
It's more or less your show tonight, my friend. You have all the info.
Yeah, I guess so. Let's start with, well, we're heading into election season now, so this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
And just want to remind people, local, and that includes Caroline Colarusso for Congress. Your vote for her matters, so we would encourage you to go out and support her. But also, I forgot that question 1 is going to be on the ballot, and that's a proposal to raise our taxes. I mean, Massachusetts had I think the biggest budget surplus in history, if not one of the biggest budget surpluses in history, and they want more money. I don't understand it. So vote no on that if you're so inclined. But the busy bees have been working, Scott. The busy bees. So what would you call a person who would prevent the people he governs from having a say in how they govern him or her?
Agenda-driven, an obstructionist, a tyrant.
I was going to say, would you go that far? Is that tyrannical behavior?
No, that's self-preservation. Whenever you put a vote into the hands of a politician, and it has potential effect on their future, i.e. re-elections or recalls, they'll never, ever agree with it. But if it comes to giving them a choice to vote for their own pay raise, they would always agree with it. You got opposite sides of the spectrum, right?
Oh, it's about our survival instincts, I guess, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, it's self-preservation that they want to stay in power. They took the job for power.
Well,
Even if that's a baseline,
yeah.
You know, you do have authority. Let's use authority as a better term.
Well, right? Wouldn't that be the definition of a tyrant?
Possibly. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it could be a fringe definition. Yeah.
It sounds like such a strong word to use. And, you know, that seems to be one that, by the way, gets used pretty, you know, maybe not the word tyrant exactly, but, you know, fascism. I mean, there's all this kind of language being thrown around. I guess that the broader question is, where I'm going with this is, how do you think there's any way we can sway people to change their minds? And you know where I'm going with this. So,
the only way they could change their mind is if they are put upon by their constituents. Their people have to contact them, and there's a group of them in there on the town council that don't seem to like to reach out to people only when it's convenient for them. Whereas when you signed up for the job, it's not everything is convenience, but it seems to be. There's more than a few on there that it's only when it's convenient for them. Yeah, the photo op of what's his name down down that park last
Oh,
week.
yeah. John Munson.
John Munson. Total photo op. We want to thank John Munson.
Oh, come on.
Now,
He's
where
there
has
for the
he been
extension.
other than that? What has he done other than show up on a Saturday morning?
You're about to find out what he's working on.
Yeah, good.
So one thing before I forget, and hopefully I'll mention it again. So we have two pretty large meetings or pretty important meetings coming up at the town council in the Harvey Room, October 4th at 7 p.m. and October 18th at 7 p.m. October 18th at 7 p.m. Why are these important? Well, the premise of America's government, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong here, is self-governance, right? Of, for, and by the people. That means that the people also decide the framework of their government, right? The Constitution, state law, you vote on state laws, you elect people at the state level to create laws for you. You elect people locally to pass ordinances and basically act as legislative bodies for your communities. And at the community level, you are given opportunity by rule of our charter to put together a commission, the Ordinance Review Commission, for that commission to take a look at the current rules and ordinances in charter rules, I guess we'll call them, and determine if they fit and are working. That's essentially what we're doing, and make proposals. As I mentioned a while back, I was on that. I was one of the people on that commission. So the 4th is going to be, I believe, and when the agendas are settled, I'll post them on the group website or the Facebook group. The 4th is going to be a forum, I believe, where the public's going to be allowed to engage more than just in a public comment period. It's more of a question and answer style, I guess. However, forums work, kind of like the spring forum or the fall forums. Anyway, and then the 18th is when they're going to actually, the committee, the town council is going to vote on the proposals and essentially recommend them to be put on the ballot in 2024, not 2023, in 2024 for the public to vote on. So obviously the charter is the governing body, right? The structure, the rules, the way we are governed, with ordinances being part of that. But it's also how it's how our town is governed, and it's how we hold our elected officials accountable. That's the rub. So you've got the fabulous five, I call them. So you got Munson, you got Joe Aiello, you got Flockhart, you got Ruggiero, and you got Honan, who I know, they haven't said it. They did take a vote. There was a vote from the Rules and Ordinance Committee. We'll get to that in a minute, but I am convinced that they are going to remove some of the key. They're going to vote to remove some of the key proposals, or at least one or two of the key proposals that we're bringing forward. We'll get to that in a minute. Have I confused anybody?
Well, I'm good. I'm getting it.
Yeah, it's just you and I guess, right?
Well, they can call in if they want.
That's true. It's a good point. So, and just the other night at a time, I watched the town council meeting the other night, and just the other night, Jared, I'm good. Attaboy, number one. Just the other night at the town council meeting, it came up again. I mean, it came up again, and Joe Aiello was essentially challenging Jim's integrity. Like, is this a legitimate, calling it to question whether or not the ORC, as we were appointed and instructed, if we were legitimate. And I went back and watched it because Jim made a buffoon out of him, because there were two opportunities for Joe to ask his questions at council meetings when Jim brought it up. It's like he had K&P give him a legal opinion. Everything's on the up and up. So this is how bad, and this, by the way, I'll add a sixth to the fabulous five. Your buddy, the one that looks like Ignatowski, the one from the Board of Health.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Bill the shill.
He's part of this. He's,
of course he is,
from behind the scenes.
Yeah, of course he is. I won't make any personal statements against him, any personal comments, but it's somewhat pathetic. It's somewhat pathetic.
Well, it's like, I mean, come on. And it's like, what? Anyway, it's just so silly, right? Because there were two meetings. Jim brought this up at two separate meetings. You can check the minutes. I might be getting some of this wrong, but the bottom line is I knew K&P gave him a legal opinion, and I didn't learn it, from osmosis. So anyhow, so they're already at work trying to see how they can make, stop what is going to happen, or what we'd like to have happen.
It's Bill Schmidt, right?
Yeah, Bill Schmidt. Yep.
Yeah, Bill the Shill Schmidt. He's a lackey for Tracy Honan. I'll say it. He's a lackey. It's all he is.
Is it not the other way around?
No, he's a lackey for her, because remember, he was the one that was offering to help write up how to propose this transgender thing. He's just a lackey. That's all that guy is. It's all he is.
And actually, let's keep score here for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just focus on, well, we don't have much history with Joe, but since Joe has come on the council, he's been a bit of a nuisance to Jim, bucking everything.
And it's his right to do that.
Fair enough.
Right. Yeah.
Fair enough. But he hasn't done the homework, right? So he's let me rephrase that, because you're right. He can challenge anything he wants.
He's bucking in a spiteful manner. It's like he's spiting him.
And but the things he's challenging have already been discussed in these open meetings. Like, there's minutes to back up the things he's questioning. Yeah. Plus, he could show up to some of the subcommittee meetings when he's questioning the finance stuff. He's just deliberately trying to make Jim look bad, because he doesn't like the way Jim handled the whole Tracy thing when she was trying to grandstand about the elections and the January 6th and all this other stuff.
And the pride flag and the transgender thing. Yeah. And I'm going to read the central record. And yeah, so he's just a spiteful little man. That's all he is.
And so here's the score. All of these people in this fabulous 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, what have they done that's positive? What have they brought forward? Everything they've done so far has been either pointed away from the community, or now what they're working on here is trying to take away the people's rights to vote on this stuff. And that's where I guess I should stop belaboring the point, and I should try to get to. So let's see. Where did I leave off? All right. Okay. Oh, did you see they made changes to this thing?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen any of it.
Oh yeah, all right, here.
But I could be like Joe Aiello and just make it up.
So getting back to October 4th, October 18th, and what's going to happen. If you could bring up the screen, the slide, I guess you'll call it. So what you're seeing in front of you is the result of our work. I don't remember exactly how many weeks it was, but it was every week for a couple of hours a night on a Wednesday night. We put a lot of work into this. We were asked to review the work of the previous ORC. We did that as well. And we were asked to make recommendations, to the charter, to the rules and ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what we came up with for the council to consider. Jim asked rules and ordinances to consider this. And the other night they took a vote. I don't have the exact vote numbers, so I'm going to be a bit speculatory here, but they took a vote to either to recommend to move forward, or to not, or a negative recommendation, or no recommendation on some of these proposals. It's essentially meaningless, other than it signals that how they're going to vote on the council. And this is where I'm putting the math together. You had on that Rules and Ordinance Committee, you have Ruggiero. You have, I don't think Flockhart is a voting member. Yeah, Flockhart's a voting member. And Munson and Rob. So is that too many? Maybe one away. The only one in it that voted that wanted to put it forward as is was Rob. And he actually made an offer to make the climb higher. We'll get to this in a minute. The climb higher on the recall language. So make it harder to get it on the ballot. Right. Rob offered to say, let's make it a little harder to get on the ballot Will you then vote for it? And they said no. So let's get into this. So this is what we worked on. This is the first recommendation. The size and composition of the council be reduced and changed from 6 precinct councilors to 2 at large and the council president to a 6 all at large and the town council president. The ORC voted 6-3 in favor of this recommendation. That means we obviously wanted it to go. This is one that I'm not sure of, but this is one that they may say no. We don't want it to be at large because they think precinct councilors work out better, because if it's all at large, you might essentially have one part of town representing the whole town. So a full stop. Any opinion from you on that?
Yeah, thought? I mean, people are going to vote no matter. I mean, how many people in Winthrop? See, this is what they don't get. They don't go down a level below, or they don't try to come down to the normal person. Okay.
Right.
How many people in Winthrop know what? If you polled 100 people in Winthrop, how many of them would know what precinct they're in?
That's a great question, and not
evidently
many.
They don't take that into consideration. They think in this hive mentality, like I always say, and what if the Highlands all groups together and they want to vote, and it's not going to happen. Then that's a precinct basically. But in a nutshell,
Scott, you grew up here. Let me ask you something. Do you think if you were still here and you were on a board and you were and you were on the council and you were a at large, there was no more precinct councilors, and do you think you'd only take care of the Highlands where you grew up?
No, I'd be everywhere.
Every problem in Winthrop, no matter where it is a town problem.
And so what? The other councilors can sit back and say, well, that's not my precinct, so I don't want anything to do with it. I'm Tracy Honan. I'm just going to sit in my precinct, and I don't care what's going on in Aiello's precinct, however it goes. Is that how this is set up?
No. Well, I mean, that might
be. Think about it. Like, you're right. Responsible for your precinct. If something's going on down the point and you got the precinct up the Highlands, you're just going to say, that's his or her precinct. Yeah, that's Hannah Belch's. She let her deal with it.
Well, and Jared, there's more than just that. There's more. I mean, the other, the reason we're looking to just change things up in general, Jared, as he writes, I'm open to change when the status quo isn't working. That's the answer right there. Our argument for change in council size, scope, years of service, etc., is to try to make it easier for people to take on the job. Because when I served, or when I try to get people to serve, they don't want to do the 4 years. It's too much. It's too big of a commitment. So that's, we're trying to make it easier for people to get involved. But Scott, you make a great point. And you could look at it another way too, right? Like you say, they don't take it down to the next level. Well, okay. How's the precinct councilor thing working out for them? They've proven already that they don't care what their precincts say, because you had Joe Aiello not even talk to the people in his precinct about the tree on Somerset Ave. And you have Munson, who says he talks to his constituents, but I mean, I've lived in precinct 2 for quite some time. I lived in Winthrop my whole life. I know a lot of people in precinct 2, and none of them how do I phrase this to make it simple? Not one of them wants to not be able to vote on these things. And that's the main point. I don't care whose side you're on, right? If you don't want this, so okay. I respect the fact that 5 of the 9 councilors do not want to go all at large. I respect that fact. But this document and these rules govern you. So you can get a bite at it as a citizen when it's on the ballot. But what you're doing now and proposing now is just on its face. It's morally incorrect. And it's not about which way you want these recommendations to go in the actual vote. You just want a shot at it. And that's what I and the basically 6 others or 5 others, depending upon which vote you look at, want. We just want you to have a shot at it, so you can decide how you manage and hold your elected officials accountable.
A majority of these things should go to the vote. I mean, I don't even know. You're giving the people who it might affect the power to say yay or nay. And what do you think they're going to say, right? Again, these people live in a self-preservation world when they're on this council. They don't want anything to impede, interfere, or any chances that they might get recalled or, my vote is my vote, and I'm going to tell you what's good. I don't care about the rest of the town type thing.
Well, let's get into the psychology of this for a second. I mean, why? Okay, I have made this point.
Because they're not honest. They're just not.
Is that really
honest.
what it is?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes, they have zero integrity. They're not honest. They want to just take care of themselves in their little circle, their little gang of five, and that's all they want to do. And they want to buck you. They don't care. Okay, there's some fringe going on with caring, but for the most part, they're not honest people. They're not honest politicians. They don't want to leave it to the people. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you don't have to be sorry. I mean, I'm honestly, let me take it a step back, because this is really where I'm trying to get to on this, and I'm probably boring the audience here, but forget about what they want to do in terms of how they're going to vote here. How can they not see that what they're doing is actually taking power away from the people and giving it to them?
They do see it. They're not stupid people. I never said they were stupid.
No, you didn't.
No, they know what they're doing. They know exactly how they're handling it. And
well, then that just makes them insidious people.
Insidious is a word.
Calculating.
I just say not honest politicians.
Calculating. That is calculating, is it not?
It's very plotting and planning and calculated. And yeah, they don't want the vote to go to the people. Or else they'd say, yeah, just, you know what? Just leave it to the people.
So does that extend from a moral or an intellectual superiority that most really left people think they have over everybody else?
They might have a superiority complex, I don't know.
Okay. Well.
It's hard to say, but in the end, bottom line, being repetitive, they are not honest politicians. If you don't want to leave something to the people to vote for, if you think you're going to squash it because you have an agenda, which is what these gang of five have, then they're not honest people.
Well, and
they're just not honest. They're not honest politicians.
They can squash it. And I wonder, I mean, would this be, who knows if this would be something of the breaking point?
I don't know, but it's, why, again, let the people vote on it.
You can't be any less American.
It's like a budget. It's like a budget going into Congress. They're gonna shred it apart, and then they're gonna present what they think is the right thing to do. So they're gonna pick out all the stuff that, will this affect me? This could affect me. Pull it out.
Exactly right. One of the things that that was said, that Mr. Munson said, and was, we are elected by the people to represent the people. Well, I would suggest that if he's true to that form, he'd wait till he was actually elected by the people, because he was appointed. And he would do well to remember that. He should either recuse himself, in my opinion, of course, recuse himself for this vote, or do the morally correct thing and say, hey, I wasn't elected, I was appointed. The people should decide on all of this.
Appointed and was also the least qualified, I might add.
Of the two, that's right. And mind you, the work that one of the people on this ORC was Karen Chavez, the one that did not get the votes. So I hate to say this, but the fifth vote that put Munson where he is has now created this problem too.
And that's
our precinct 3 counselor.
Is that Hannah Belcher?
It is Hannah Belcher.
Yeah. Hey, listen. She put herself out there. She put herself out there that she's subject to scrutiny. She knows this.
She does.
She's a smart person. But she's gonna be put yourself in the limelight, subject to scrutiny, and she's getting scrutinized for this.
So let's move on, because recommendation 1 was the size and composition. It was actually 1A. Then there's 1B, which is the term of the council president to go from 2 to 4 year term. Again, 7-2 in favor of recommendation. Again, something I think the people should vote on, not the council. I think it should go to the people. And the theory behind this, honestly, is, look, those of us who have actually ran campaigns, won and served, and won and lost. Okay, I've done both. Understand it a little bit better than those of us who have run unopposed or have been appointed, and that's pretty much everybody in the Fabulous Five. Nobody wants to run. Even Joe Aiello, when I talked to him, he was like, I'm only doing this because I was asked. That was basically his sentiment. So what we do know, though, is that people who want to be president are motivated and would likely still run for a 4-year term. And that gives us more stability on the council. You got the president supposed to set the agenda for the full council. That's why they have so much power to set committees and subcommittees and appoint boards, etc. They have a lot of power in that way. And so 2 years isn't enough. 2 years is not enough for any one person to get their agenda set. And so that's why we wanted to make that a 4-year term and then make it for the counselors a 2-year term to try to attract more.
Okay.
Which,
let me stop you here. So for the people that might not understand what we're talking about as far as the process. So you said ORC votes 7-2 in favor of recommendation, right?
Yep.
So ORC is the Ordinance
Review
Committee, right?
Yep.
There's 9 people there, right? So 7-2 in favor of moving it to the town council for vote. Now what's going to happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, all the recommendations from the Ordinance Review Committee that go to the town council, now the town council can take those recommendations and cherry pick things out of each recommendation. It's not going to go to vote as was voted upon by the Ordinance Review Committee, which is what they do. They review these things, and this is their recommendations. So now it's going to go to the town council, and the town councilors can say, oh, this recall thing? Nah, I don't think the people should vote on that. This is essentially what they're saying.
Yeah, they can take the whole thing out.
Yeah, I don't think we want the people voting on that. This is what they're doing. Instead of trusting the ORC and saying, okay, these are your recommendations. We approve, we're good with what these recommendations are. Just let the people vote on them.
Right.
Now you guys aren't elected officials, but when it comes to policies like this is important stuff, right?
Well, right. And that's that's the whole spirit.
It should be an all or nothing. They shouldn't be able to cherry pick certain things out of each one. They should be able to either.
And I agree with you. I agree with you, but in fairness to them, the charter is pretty specific, and it's in non-specificity on what their actual role is.
See, the charter needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, and Kurt Millar coming in late says the council's going to shut down multiple things on this. That's where we're at, Kurt. We're just getting through 1B, 1C. And by the way, I want to remind everybody that just going back, if the Fabulous Five are trying to use representative government as their reasoning for this, for their quote unquote right, which unfortunately technically they have, to basically dismember what we did, then doesn't it make sense to look a little further back and look at what the town voted on when they elected the man who put together the ORC? When they beat, Phil Boncory represents essentially the Fabulous Five. Like, they would be in lockstep if Phil was still on the council. And he got his butt kicked. He got his arse kicked in every precinct overwhelmingly. So
to the dismay of Tracy Honan,
yeah,
Aiello, to their dismay. because they had him wrapped around their fingers.
They did. It was, and that's why, I mean, I hate to say this because, it's conspiracy, this, that, but I mean, why is Joe Aiello so aggressive towards Jim? Like, it's, I'm surprised it took Jim this long to push back, but
just a spiteful little man.
Well, hey, by the way, quick note, Kurt Millar is running for precinct 2.
All
Yeehaw,
right.
Kurt Millar. Attaboy, Kurt.
We got you. You know
we'll pick that up sooner than later. Okay, so getting back to this is another recommendation we think that they're going to remove, which is the changing of the council. Again, pretty simple reason. Councilors go from 4 to 2 years to attract more. That was our thinking. Again, we just want the people to decide. We want to try to make our government better. Abandonment language, that was a unanimous, so we're not worried about that. Abandonment language means if you're not showing up to a certain number of meetings in a certain period of time, you are considered to have abandoned it and you're done, which we needed to do that because we had just recently had an issue where folks weren't coming to meetings because they were too busy hooking up. This one's 9-0, so we'll skip it. 8-1 is the recommendation number 4. Use variances. I'm not so sure, even though this passed 8-1, that this isn't on the chopping block. I had heard some comments at the Rules and Ordinance meeting that it was self-serving and whatever, but this is a great move for our community because essentially what it does, use variances, variances are essentially where you want to apply for a non-conforming use on your property, right? So maybe you want to go closer to, you're supposed to be a 10-foot setback. Maybe you want to try to build up to the 10-foot setback or change the shape of your house or whatever. You have to apply for a use variance, and it's only supposed to be granted if you have a hardship. Well, now, if we remove the use variance ordinance, then they would have to go before the planning board first, then the town council, I believe. It makes it more of a rigorous process, so it protects the individual homeowners from things like what happened on Fremont Street. Yep. That's the principle of this.
Protects the neighborhood.
Right. I mean, by the way, not to go off topic here with Fremont, I believe that house is a circa house, CIRCA, which means it's like over 100 years old and is a historic piece, I believe. Yeah. So that, I think, changes the calculation there for the Cross family.
Yeah.
I think. I could be wrong, but recommendation of 5, amend to add a recall. This is the one that they're going to definitely try to get out, to take away the recall. So we want to add a recall provision to prevent things like Austin Faison. To prevent things like Austin Faison, quote unquote, working from his home in Hanover or Timbuktu or wherever he was. Stopping things like Austin Faison, who's cost us $100 and something thousand to not work. Yeah, that's it. $180,000 to not work. We want this recall language because it gives us an opportunity outside of elections. We all get it. Elections are for this purpose. However, had we been able to recall the former council president who despite a lower than average review gave the guy a bonus and extended his contract, if we had been able to recall him for that, we might not have been in the situation we're in now. And that's really the gist of it.
The paranoia with the town council is, I'm sure someone like Tracy Honan is afraid that, well, maybe if I want to read something into record and they don't like it, they might want to recall me. That's not going to happen.
Well, hold on for 1 second. I'll admit, personally, I would want to recall her for that because it's just
I would see that's the problem.
Me off. But I just laughed at. No one would sign the petition.
Well,
Plus, I mean, people of Winthrop.
It should just, that's okay. There's rules and regulations on the town council, and I know that one of the issues with the recall is, well, what offenses, and what's the limit? What's the cutoff point? Well, reading something into record, which if the town council president lets her, like Phil did, and she has the right to do that. Might not like it. A lot of people didn't like it, and a lot, she has her followers. She's in the Borg, so they liked it. But I don't know, if someone said, "Hey, let's recall her for that," I can understand that there's like no reason for that. But if she got in a DUI, and
you're talking about making kind of what we called guardrails.
Yeah,
right?
I understand. You're right. I know what you're saying. And like you said, anybody can try to start a recall. You have to get the votes.
You have to get the signatures first, and it's a
have to
lot.
get
It's
the
a
signatures.
big.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's true.
Scott,
That's true.
If I went to your house, right, in a fit of rage, because that's probably what it would be, talking about January 6th on our time, sign this, you'd go, get out of here. You're out of your mind. Go have a drink, calm down. Right? Trust your community.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. But you know what? Again,
self-preservation.
Let the people vote.
Yeah.
And because they wanted, so here's an interesting one though. See, we rejected 5-4 a much closer vote for putting guardrails on it. So for putting language, what you can and can't recall. And I'd add as a reminder that the board was we had representation. What I would call representative representation on the board. We had the two consistents here are Ruggiero and Bob Carroll, and then you mix in a little Tom Chudina and who's the town clerk, their votes, right? And you mix those in. But it was the point is there's a well-balanced board, and I thought we worked fairly well together. So actually those are the bigger ones. We do want this, do the people want to vote on this one, right? Changing the vacancy on the school committee language. This is an interesting one, though might not seem consequential, but when someone resigns from the school committee, it's not just the school committee that gets to appoint to refill that seat. It's combined with the town council.
Yeah.
But it's not the other way around. So it doesn't make sense. And so we wanted to change that. And I think the people should have be able to be heard on that as well.
Yeah.
So, 2/3 recommendation in favor of water sewer advisory committee. That'll get on the ballot probably. I was 1-2 on that one, by the way, against that. No offense. I just wasn't for it.
What was it?
What they want to do is have basically a town council forms a water sewer advisory committee. Yeah. I think the principle of it is fantastic, but there's already
too many committees.
There's too many.
It's a lot of committees.
It's a lot of committees. We got.
I remember I went back and looked on the town website, and I saw committee after committee after committee, and it's like are they defunct? Are they still active? No one's submitting any type of the town, minutes. The town is too busy. The town hall's too busy to put it. So we don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. So those are the big ones. And Kurt writes that some see it as a way for a smear campaign, and you don't need a recall for that. It would just be another tool, another arrow in their quiver. He's right. We heard a lot of griping that it was negative and divisive and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, God, if you don't think it was divisive to have Phil Boncory be our council president and do nothing that he said he would do when he was running.
A true politician.
Just completely ignore phone calls, texts, because he was tired of hearing from, me. But the fact of the matter was he completely 180'd when he got in there and just ignored everybody. And it was infuriating. And by the way, one of the reasons, this is the hypocrisy of it all, or I shouldn't say hypocrisy, but this is interesting. One of the big reasons Tracy Honan was running was because she was going to run against Phil for council president because she hated him. She hated him. I can't tell you how many times she said it. And now, this would, how can you vote against a recall when you had a lived experience of wanting to get rid of someone on a town council that had a lot of what you would call old white guy power? Because, it was the old boy network, right? That's what she called it. The old white boy guy network. Yeah, the good old boy.
Term that's another term that they just throw that around like trash.
I mean, it's comical because I don't think My opinion, and Father Walter yells at me all the time because I say they're crazy. I mean, I don't mean certifiable crazy. Sometimes I do. Like, sometimes I do. Like, but the fact of the matter is, the thought process here is so inconsistent and incongruent with it in the thought process. It's just none of it really makes sense when you look at things with the Fabulous Five in the big picture.
I think that they are about themselves. They're not really about the people. They're about themselves. They have some sort of vendetta against Jim Lettieri, right? They're not, again, the Borg mentality. Don't think outside the Borg or you're out, right? They're too caught up in their little Gang of Five thing, the Fabulous Five, whatever. I don't give them the credit of fabulous, by the way. I don't give
I'll
them
come up
that.
with a better adjective.
I have an F word that will fit with five, but I'm not going to say it.
The fraudulent five.
Yeah. So, and this is where we're at. They're in their own little Borg, and they're not thinking about the constituents of the town. They're thinking about how can we gang up. No.
Uh-oh.
Here we go, Binkster. We know who that is.
Yeah, that's Curdy.
Yo, with the votes live.
Hey, it's Kurt. How's it going?
What's up, Binkster?
Precinct 2 candidate Kurt Millar on the phone.
What's up?
One day I'll get this phone changed to something else.
That's okay. I know who it is when you call, so just I get confused easy. Don't change it.
So one thing I wanted to touch on quickly is the whole asking consistently if it was legal for us to do what we did.
Yeah, I brought
that did not stem from the counselors. I don't know if you brought that up.
Well, hold 1 second, Kurt. I'll give you a little bit of frame this for you. So first, did you watch? You did watch that meeting that night, correct? The last town council meeting. Okay, so we kind of covered it a little bit before you got on, but you're spot on. We did make the point that Aiello was going after Jim. Jim put him in his place. In that we think it's Bill the Shill. Go ahead, floor's yours.
If you go back previous meetings, he questioned it. He came to our meeting and actually questioned it. I don't know if you were there for that one.
Yeah, he did. He came to the ORC meeting. Yep.
And of course, who's buddy with Bill Schmidt?
Munson.
John Munson.
Yep.
So then you have Munson, who talks to Aiello. And of course, Aiello, he's very well spoken. He's a very intelligent man. And I know he has his own ideas and concepts, how things should go. And I give him kudos for that. But the approach that was taken on this was horrible.
You
constantly questioning whether it was legal or not. It was defined legal multiple times.
Yep. He was calling it to question Jim's integrity, in my opinion.
To a point, it was, yes.
Right, because he wanted proof that he had it. He wanted proof that it was that was K&P's response.
Yeah,
like Jim's gonna make it up. Really? Evidently, Joe's not that intelligent. Like Jim's just gonna make this stuff up.
Well, hold on.
I'm gonna throw the big bluff at them.
Let's keep in mind that Joe Aiello's perspective is MBTA. Go ahead, Kurt.
No, you're 100% right. He's actually a good. He and I talk about maintenance, like maintenance in the town.
Yep.
So he and I agree 100% on that. That no matter what we put in place, we never do the maintenance on the other end of it.
Never.
And he constantly questions that, which makes perfect sense, and I give him kudos for that.
Yeah.
But the way this whole Ordinance Review Committee is reviewing things, and nothing against Steve, but he gets 3 votes on this.
Right. I know. That's another
So you
thing.
automatically know where one vote is from beginning to end on everything.
Explain that.
Go ahead, Kurt.
So Steve was on our committee as a member, and he got a vote for what we put through.
And what committee is that?
Recommendations.
Ordinance Review.
The Charter Ordinance Review.
Ordinance Review. Okay.
He's the chair of the Rules and Ordinance Committee, which reviewed it.
That's true.
So he got a vote there. And now, when it goes back to the council, he gets another vote.
Isn't that kind of a conflict of interest? He can
Well, Jim-
carry his vote. He can carry his vote through to the end.
Yep.
That's something wrong with that.
So Jim extends an olive branch essentially and puts, I shouldn't say that. Jim tries to be smart and build a balanced committee. This was one of the quiet F-ups in my mind, because I knew once I figured out he got 3 votes, which was not until halfway into the process. So I was Monday morning quarterbacking on that one.
That's like being a congressman, a senator, and then like the vice president.
Right?
And it's like, I get voted, and then I'm going to move over to my Senate seat, and I'm going to vote yes on it. And then I'm going to move up to my VPC where it probably falls in my community. I'm going to vote yes on it.
And
there's something wrong with that.
He's one of the loudest persons when it comes to representation. Is he not, Kurt? One of the loudest.
That needs to be fixed.
And he's voting on it 3 times without a conscience that he's going to take this away from people who want to vote on it. And I'll ask you, Kurt, to comment on when you did your homework during this process and you talked to people throughout the community. Do they want to vote on this stuff? I mean, what was the feedback that you got?
The majority of people I spoke with, yes, they wanted to vote on it. The handful that didn't feel that recall should even be brought up was smaller. I'm not going to throw names out, but I contacted counselors. I contacted, just regular everyday people. If I went down to Blackstrap, I questioned people there. I mean, I went all different places. I didn't want to just keep it in my group of people. So I was trying to keep it open. And I expressed to you also, Todd, I was torn on a couple of these things because of the feedback. And I didn't just want to go with what I felt was the right thing.
Right. You did. But in the end, those people that gave you those concerns are going to get the chance to vote on it, right? That's the thing that kept me comfortable with my votes anyway.
Yeah, and that's where I lean towards my final decision on my vote was, the majority of the feedback I got, I voted yes on each of those items.
We got feedback from a well-respected individual. I will not name him, but he's on the Winter Votes Facebook page commenting. His feedback was that a lot of people he talked to like a lot of it, and most people think it should go forward and put on the ballot. So, it's
all about keeping elected officials honest, and they won't be honest about this.
It's mind-numbing to me, though, Scott.
Yeah, and it's not they're not under a microscope. Winthrop's a small town,
right?
So I misunderstood the process of this, and this is my own fault for not digging into it more like I usually do. I thought when I went to the rules and ordinances, all they were supposed to do was clean up the language to send it back, not take a vote and eliminate stuff.
I think that's the spirit of what we want them to do, but I don't believe the charter is clear on actually. I think it's actually clear in its vagueness.
Yeah.
Right. It's because they have a say. And by the way, their recommendation is absolutely non-binding. So the reality is that second vote that they're getting, it can be used in a campaign to promote what you want. But other than that, it's a meaningless vote.
But then again, the rules and ordinances, you already have 2 counselors there. So you already know how they're going to vote.
Right. But that wouldn't have changed. That wouldn't have changed, would it? Right? They're still going to vote the way they're voting.
They shouldn't be on any of these counts. They should just be the final say. They shouldn't have more than 1 vote on these things. They shouldn't.
Well, no, there's 3 counselors. I'm sorry, because Rob was on there. Rob, Steve, and John.
Right. And Rob even said more than once, he's like, I don't feel good about making changes to these things when it's supposed to be the people who ultimately are going to decide. Common sense is lost, right? Or maybe it's not. Maybe they know full well what the right thing to do is, like Scott believes, and I'm starting to believe, and they just don't give a rat.
Self-preservation. Agenda. Take Jim down. Just get in your Borg and just stick to the agenda.
But even if, let's say, hypothetically, all these pass, it doesn't affect them in their seat until what? 2025.
Yeah.
Right. We vote on it in 23, and I don't think it goes into effect until 25. Is that right? Or do we vote on it in 24?
I think that's what it was.
So that makes it even easier to just let it go through, because now they'll know that the future of the council will be transparency. It'll be everything's on the up and up. You're responsible for your actions.
Well, hey, we can do a little math for them. If we know some of you guys will watch this and share it with the other 4 or 3 who don't. So pay attention. We're going to do some math for you. Your person.
Condescending bastard.
Oh, yeah. We're going to easy math. Your person, Phil Boncory, got his arse whooped in every precinct by a lot. Okay. So go ahead and take these things off of the ballot, vote them off, and rest assured that if any of you have any ideations on winning in 2023,
it's going to be an uphill
you
battle.
have sealed your fate. You will get your ass whooped too.
Well, I think there might be some concern too of if it goes to all at large, how that would work, possibly against them, where in certain precincts where some of these people are, they do have their group of friends who are always going to support them.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to see what the vote count was for like each precinct. You know,
you
like,
can. I mean, you could get that. It's
find it,
low.
yeah.
They're low numbers.
Very
It's
low.
Like, what, 300? Kurt was in precinct 2, and that was one of the higher ones. How many?
You
people
might
vote?
have a better turnout if it's at large.
I think you might.
You know,
I mean, my view of at large is I will go to different counselors for different things because I'm more comfortable speaking with them on certain aspects. To me, that's at large.
Yeah, and they might be subject matter experts on different things, right? Each person brings a different strength to the council. I mean, we talked about this in the ORCs, Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement.
Now, hypothetically, if I were, in precinct 2, I would never turn anybody away to talk to them. If anything, I'd be even more welcoming of every precinct.
Yeah.
Correct. Well, I mean, I get the concern. I can see how, look, I can see how it will happen. I can see how it could happen, right? There's a lot more interest. Just if you just look at the parts of town where you get interest, even the Highlands has lower interest than, there's a lot more interest in the kind of the center, precinct 3 and precinct 2. So that fear is kind of legitimate, I guess, but it's freaking Winthrop. We're 1.5 square miles. No one's going to be underrepresented. There's going to be, what is it, 5, 6 counselors at 6 at large?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And 7 at large, whatever it is. Yeah. Anywho,
Well,
I don't know.
All right. Well, Kurt, thanks for the call, buddy.
Good to catch up,
No
Kurt. We'll talk
problem.
soon, pal.
All right. Take it easy.
All right, Bingster.
Right, see you, buddy.
Bye.
Yeah, Kurt always brings something to the table, man.
He's a man of many, many talents. DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's Cuzzy, right? Cuzzy Miller. Cuzzy Miller.
So, okay, it's, we'll see what the town council does. We'll see if they, stay in alignment. We'll see how they vote, and just gives us more to talk about, buddy.
October 4th, October 18th, 7 p.m.
October 4th is like it's like a kind of a town hall type thing, right?
That's what I thought. I'm gonna find the agenda and confirm that. But that's where there's supposed to be a forum so that the public can weigh in, and hopefully they show up in big numbers, because that's the only way those counselors are gonna feel any type of pressure to make the right vote. Right now, they're sitting there thinking they're self-righteous because they haven't heard a word. But every human being has humility somewhere down there. So if we stuff the room, maybe we'll bring some of their humility out.
Hopefully. We'll see how it plays out.
That's
It plays out,
That's right.
And just to come back on something. So I might rip some of these councils, but I'm sure this stuff they do good too. I don't know. I don't ever hear about it. I don't hear much, about what they're doing good. But in the end, we'll see how they vote. We'll see where it goes, and we'll talk about it.
Yep. We will. That's right. Because you know what? All politics starts at the local level.
There you go.
Right?
There you go. That's right.
So everybody that's going to watch this, share this, show up, put the dates down. This is your chance
October
to actually
4th. October 4th.
participate,
Yep.
be heard, and make a difference. It will matter. It will matter.
October 4th. That's next week, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's next Tuesday. Mark your calendar.
All right. And like I always say, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. You are the engine that makes this machine run. Without you, it'd just be me and Todd talking. And we do that anyways. So it's good that we can share these conversations with you guys. Thanks for your participation. And this Facebook Live thing will get fixed. We'll get fixed. I'm working on it. We'll be back on Facebook soon enough. Facebook Live, that is.
Yeah,
and we'll see you next Monday. All right.